between men and women. We men tend to say what we want. Women may often pepper their requests with please, thank you, or would you mind? Where does this difference come from? When does it start? We did some experiments that'll make you think twice about the messages you give to your kids.
Semi-required?
Each sex negotiates the world a little differently. How differently may surprise you. Child development expert Cam Leeper came up with an experiment that he said would show clear differences between boys and girls. We made some lemonade, but instead of putting in sugar, we deviously put in salt. Lots of it. Then we asked the kids some random questions and offered them the lemonade.
So, how's the lemonade?
It's bad.
Their faces say it all. My lemonade was fine. We gave the kids theirs from a separate pitcher.
Need some sugar. Tastes terrible.
Most boys reacted honestly, the way I would if someone gave me something foul. This is how Dr. Leeper expected the boys to react because
boys are allowed to talk back to their parents more than girls are, to assert their will more.
Would girls react differently? I didn't think they would, but was I ever wrong?
How is that lemonade?
Tastes good.
Again and again, the girls politely drank it. This girl looked as if she was choking it down.
How's the lemonade?
Good.
Is it really?
Only when I pushed them did they tell the truth.
How come you didn't tell me it was bad?
Cause I didn't want to be rude to you.
Most boys didn't worry about that.
No.
Have anyone you want?
We tried another test. We put a bunch of brightly wrapped gifts in the room
They're big presents. I want those.
and told the kids they could pick one. What we had cruelly done, following Dr. Leeper's advice, was fill each box with a truly disappointing gift, socks and a pencil. Again, the girls were so polite.
So what'd you think of that as a gift?
Good.
Why, isn't this kind of a lousy gift? Ooh? Ooh what?
Just what I needed. Socks and a pencil.
I must say, these girls have a skill I lack. Anyone who gives them a gift is going to feel good about it.
Thank you.
These boys were not about to make me feel good.
What? Sock and a pencil? Rip off. A sock and a pencil?
This is one of those situations where the boys probably should be behaving more like the girls. Inner child social.
Susan Witt teaches childhood development at the University of Akron. She says boys and girls respond differently in situations like these because we parents parent them differently. We teach boys to be assertive.
I hated it.
You hated it.
Who needs socks? They got plenty of socks at home.
With girls, parents stress politeness, pleasing others.
You didn't go, ew.
I just didn't want to make anyone feel bad that they made this so sour.
Partly it's girls are the ones that we usually expect to be the nurturers. Boys we expect to be the providers, the tough ones.
Crystal is...
These differences came out when we asked the kids to describe themselves.
Nice. Nice person. Nice.
Nice is the word girls kept using.
Nice.
Drew, he's...
Talented.
Boys rarely said nice.
I am, smart. I'm very good at math. I'm funny a lot.
Both funny and nice are good, but often girls are too eager to be nice, says Dr. Witt, and boys too direct.
I don't want socks and pencil and please.
What makes you think parents can really change this? Maybe we're born different.
Well,
That differently. We really are, and that's some of this new research. There's a fascinating study just published showing that when you look at newborn babies, first day of life, and you put a woman stands on one side of the crib, and on the other side of the crib you have a mobile swinging around, the girl babies all look at the woman The boy babies all look at the dangling mobile because it's moving. The boys are looking for the movement. The girls are more interested in a human face. That's on the first day of life. These differences are hardwired, and we now understand exactly why that's so.
And you say there's this trend toward gender-neutral playtime and playthings. That's really not good.
The motivations were right. 30 years ago, people felt, we don't want to put kids into pink and blue cubby holes, and we want kids to have broader horizons, so let's treat them all the same. Made a lot of sense, but it hasn't worked. What we now know is, as Janetta Colesman said, in order to be at home everywhere, you got to feel at home somewhere. And the way you want to start with your child is to have your boy comfortable being a boy and not try and get him to do things that don't come naturally.
So
Start
don't
with
necessarily
who they
let them play with dolls. I mean, if they want to, it's okay,
what
but
they
don't
want
force
to
it.
do. Yeah, the idea that forcing boys to play with dolls or forcing girls to play with erector sets would be of value, we now know is not of value.
You also say there are physical differences. For example, vision. Boys and girls see differently.
Yeah, and this again is brand new research. Nobody even looked at this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the idea that girls and boys, that the eyes are wired in fundamentally different ways, it didn't really even occur to anyone.
How do girls see differently than boys?
One very simple difference is that in the retina of the girl's eye, you have more of what are called parvocellular ganglion cells, and those are looking for color and texture. In the boys, you have more of what's called magnocellular cells, and those are looking for movement. So as many psychologists have said, girls are interested in nouns, in people. Boys are interested in verbs, like
action.
Somebody attacking somebody or plowing into somebody. And instead of ignoring that and pretending it doesn't exist, use it, because you can use that in the school, in the classroom, and at home.
In fact, we've got some examples. We've got some boys' drawings here that it shows, and
Great.
they're
This is this boy, this is a 5-year-old boy who's trying to draw a collision. He's trying to draw a motor vehicle accident.
And
He
here's
doesn't
another
have
one.
any people. Again, here, this boy is he's trying to draw something moving, but boys tend to prefer black, gray, silver, and blue.
And then here's the girls' drawing.
Yes, much more colorful. Girls use more colors: red, orange, green, beige, and brown. And they're drawing people with vivid facial expressions. And you need to understand those differences. If you understand those differences, if you don't understand those differences, by first grade, boys will tell you drawings for girls.
Right.
They don't want to draw. But if you understand those differences, you can break down the gender stereotypes and have boys who love to draw and girls who love math.
And boys and girls hear differently, too.
Yeah, so again, this is new research showing that in the newborn nursery, you can demonstrate that girls have a sense of hearing about 7 times more sensitive than the boys do. And that's so important both at home and in the classroom. In the classroom, the teachers need to speak up with the boys.
Does that continue as we get older? I mean, we always hear, our wives and our girlfriends always say to us, you're not listening to me, you're not listening. Is this true?
It gets bigger as we get older.
It gets worse.
By the time you got old people like you and me, the differences are on the order of 20-fold.
Oh, gosh.
So
Well, at least I've got an excuse now. And you are also a proponent, really, of single-sex education. Why?
It makes it easier for the teacher. Now, the strategies that I present in the book, they can be used in a co-ed classroom, and more than half the presentations I've done around the United States and Canada have been for co-ed schools, because teachers in a co-ed school need to know this just as much or more. But it's easier for the teacher, instead of having to have one lesson plan that focuses on the nouns and another lesson plan that focuses on the verbs, you only have to present one lesson plan.
Well, this is really fascinating stuff. It's a fascinating book, Dr. Tannen.
It's been very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Are. In a sense, boys and girls grow up in different worlds. We tend to play with other children of the same sex. So boys play with boys, girls play with girls, and they have very different ways of playing. It's typical for boys to play in larger groups, play outdoors. It's the activities that are central. Doing things together is what makes them best friends. There are high-status boys and low-status boys. And the high-status boys give orders, and they push the low-status boys around, and that's part of what gives them their high status in the group. Typically, a little girl has a best friend, and she spends a lot of time inside talking to her friend. And it's the talking that makes them friends. Girls learn to emphasize the ways that they're the same as the other girls, and downplay the ways that they might be better. So whereas a little girl who tells other girls what to do is bossy, a little boy who tells the other boys what to do may end up being the leader. In eavesdropping on little boys at play, our cameras picked up a typical example of how the boys emphasize the ways that each one is better and try to top each other when they talk about how high they can hit a ball.
Mine's all the way up to there. Mine's up to the sky. Oh! Oh man! Mine's all the way up to heaven. Mine's... Oh! Mine's up all the way up to God.
Look how different the little girls are. Rather than trying to one-up each other, they're looking for ways that they're the same. In this example, the first little girl says, "Did you know my babysitter, called Amber, already has contact lenses?" And the second little girl says that her mother and her father also have the same thing.
Did you know my babysitter called Amber had already contacts? My mom has already contacts and my dad does too.
Not only does she repeat the idea, but she even picks up the peculiar phrasing, "has already contacts."
The same?
So you can see, having learned our assumptions about how people talk to each other from experiences like this in our childhood, that the men would be attuned to whether people are trying to one-up them or put them in a one-down position. And that's why they come to interactions looking through this status lens. And why women instead are looking through this connection lens. How are we the same? And if you come to the same conversation with these different lenses, you can come out having seen something very different. Bear in mind, too, that I won't be showing right and wrong ways of speaking. Both men and women in all our conversations are establishing connections while taking into account status differences. But women are more likely to focus on whether a conversation brings them closer or pushes them farther apart. And men are more likely to focus on whether the conversation puts them in a one-up or one-down position. One of the companies that participated in this project is Chevron Overseas Petroleum Incorporated in California. Here we found an example of a man looking through the lens of status, while a woman is looking through the lens of connection. Margie is a senior staff geologist. On this day, she's meeting with a petroleum geologist named Dieter. Margie tries to close this meeting looking through the connection lens. She tries to establish an image of all of us as one big happy family.
And that way, Erwin will be happy and I'll be happy and you'll be happy if I'm happy.
The part of this that Dieter picks up on, looking through the status lens, is that Margie's the boss and that she has power over him.
I always want you to be happy, Margie.
I know you do, Dieter.
You make my life unhappy when you aren't happy.
This difference in focusing on status or connection even shows up